All right, here we go. OverDrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app. Your home smart speaker, soon to be up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, Frankie Corrado in here post Canada Day weekend.
How we doing, buddy?
Good, pal. How are you?
I feel like I got bamboozled on Saturday.
Did you?
Really do.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Why do you say that?
I was at home, and I'm checking Twitter like crazy to see what's going on because there's signings happening. Mm-hmm. And I run into the Elon Musk Twitter thing, rate limit exceeded. Mm-hmm. Right away, I think, all right, I got to buy the Twitter blue. This is the scenario. He's boxed me into a corner, and I have to do it. And it's an important day. I got to know what's happening. You were there, too. Like, we had a lot going on. So right away, first thing I do, purchase Twitter Blue. Then it says you got to wait. You got to wait for it to approve your purchase. And I'm still getting rate limit exceeded. Mm-hmm. So all day I had to live with the fact that I bought Twitter Blue for that day specifically, and it helped me not one bit.
And it did nothing for you. And then I believe the very next day, Twitter just returned to the cesspool that it always is.
Yes.
And there's no more rate limit issues. I don't know what he's up to, man. There's some sort of plan, and I don't really know what it is. I am not paying for it. I would pay for it if I felt like I had to, right? Like, I could talk a big game. I'm not doing it. Twitter sucks. Twitter has been very beneficial for my job. Like, it has been very beneficial. I don't know how many people are on Twitter. I really have no idea.
Less than you think.
Yeah, a lot less than you think. I'm talking the average person, right? Yeah. Like, I have 90,000 followers or something. I don't know how many are bots. I don't know how many are just dead accounts that people haven't used in a decade. Like, I have no idea. But what it does is it accumulates a lot of information, right? And it's a way for me to archive a lot of information.
Sure.
For the show. And like you mentioned, Saturday was a big day where there's a lot of signings going on. Bedlam's breaking in the NBA. Damian Lillard demands a trade. I didn't even know about that.
I had no idea that
I had
happening.
No idea.
We were in our own little world here. No idea what was happening in any other sport.
Right. Might have been you, actually, that told me that. Someone came up to me hours after it had been tweeted out and revealed that Dame had demanded a trade or wants out of Portland. And someone said, did you see the Damian Lillard news? And I said, no, because Twitter's down. I can't figure that out. And that's pretty much an example of what we're talking about. Now, I didn't need to know about Damian Lillard on Saturday. Right.
Not like instantly. You didn't need to know right away.
Nothing instantaneous that day that I needed to know. Luckily, we were surrounded by people that would know what was going on in the NHL. And on Saturday, that's what our world was all about, was what was happening in the NHL. But by Tuesday at 4 o'clock, I need to know that kind of information. Right. And if anything breaks between now and 7 o'clock, we're not picking up a paper to read about it. That's the amazing thing about how I'm sure the audience has adjusted to over time. Like, they expect us, as they should, to be on top of any news that might break between now and 7 o'clock.
Yeah. If someone's sitting at home and they see it come across Twitter, like, they expect us to wrap up our interview and be like, let's go.
You got to be on it.
Let's go. Leafs just signed someone.
Right.
Like, wrap it up. You're 8 minutes in.
And how are we finding that out? We're finding it out via Twitter.
Yeah.
Like, we might get the email if there's an official signing, but if it's a report that something's moving in that direction where you can jump on it and possibly have a take or whatever, that's going to happen courtesy of Twitter. So, yeah, I do think you got bamboozled.
I got it now, though.
Bit.
I'm in now.
Now you're all in. Now you can edit tweets and everything.
No problem. I'm going to start posting threads and stories, all kinds of characters.
Yeah, there you go.
No problem.
You're going to pop up a lot in the For You tab. I think that's a big part of...
See, now I feel like if to do that, I got to tweet more, and I have no interest in tweeting more.
Yeah.
None whatsoever. I am so bad at that. To the point where you even chirped my social media presence on Saturday, which is unfortunate.
That was more so, I think it was Sarah Davis that actually really threw you under the bus, because she had mentioned that your dog had his own Instagram account,
which it's a fraudulent comment. My dog does not have her own Instagram account.
Own Instagram account.
It's
actually your Instagram account that is a lot of dog pictures and a lot of dog-related content.
Yeah.
So take that for what it's worth.
I'm glad we got that out there.
Yeah, that one, because you just can't do it, man.
There's no recovering from I run my dog's Instagram account.
Yeah.
Can't happen.
Like, unless you're a Kardashian or something, your dog cannot have social media. It cannot have a social media account. And yeah, Sarah threw you under the bus.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it, because within range. So I told you we were going to bring it up. I said 4 o'clock sharp. It's 4:05.
And we're into it.
So it came up quick enough.
There we go.
But it was good to see everyone on Saturday. There was a lot of action, obviously, in the NHL. There's been a lot of action in the NBA, Major League Baseball. We're into July now, but it feels like I don't think the dust is settled on what the Leafs or the Raptors are going to do, because there still seems to be a lot of rumors out there, conjecture out there. I think on the Raptors front, until the Damian Lillard deal takes place, there's going to be a portion of the media and the fan base that try to connect the Raptors
Always
to
happens.
Dame.
It always happens.
I think they should.
You think he wants to come to Toronto?
No.
He wants to go to Miami.
Who
He said,
cares?
I want to go to Miami. That is it.
I love that Damian
One
Lillard,
team.
Mr. Loyalty, which he was to Portland, and he's given a lot to Portland, but it's been reciprocated. They've loved him, and they've paid him like $450 million or something. But his whole reputation was, I'm not leaving. I'm going to stay here, and I'm going to win in Portland. Now, not only does he want out, he wants to go to one specific place.
Yeah.
Like, that is the NBA and the power of the players in a nutshell. Okay, actually, now I want to leave, and I'm only going here, and if you don't send me there, I'm going to basically sabotage whatever operation I end up going to.
I wonder if it's one of those things where he looks at it, he's like, I've been so damn loyal, and I've just reached my breaking point that now I'm giving you one team. Like, I was way too loyal. Now it's like, here's my demands, and it's one team. You figure it out.
But I don't think Portland's going to abide by that. I don't.
Why should they?
They shouldn't.
Why should they? Why are you going to give them one team?
Of course not. Like, if there's a better deal in Philly, Boston, Toronto, the Clippers, whoever it happens to be, because the Miami deal, by all accounts, like what is being reported, is a terrible deal if you're Portland. Like, you're not just taking Tyler Hero and some picks and some swaps for Damian Lillard. The guy's one of the 10 best players in the NBA. He just had the best season of his career. He's a game changer. He's an immediate championship caliber addition. So as for the Raptors, they did it once with Kawhi. That was a one-off. Dame's got 2 years on his deal, but I would expect they're lurking. I think they should be. As for the Leafs, I don't think they're going big game hunting. They could be.
They might be, man.
They might be big game hunting.
This seems like it's the calm before the storm. Like there's been some stuff that happened now, and you start thinking, man, like what else is this guy going to pull off? Because day one was underwhelming, wasn't it? Like day one, you bring in Ryan Reeves with some term, John Klingberg, you're like, what's going on here? And then day two, we finally got to see the vision, or at least what Brad Treliving envisions this team could look like next year.
Yeah, and that was the addition of Bertuzzi and Domi basically back-to-back. Like, once the ball got rolling on Bertuzzi, it wasn't long after you realized, all right, Domi's coming in right afterwards. And I think it's somewhat comical that you're giving out grades, winners and losers, when it's open season.
There's no games. There's no game tomorrow.
Right.
How do we know?
And it's the complete opposite of the trade deadline. Like the clock strikes 3 o'clock and that's it. Then you can come up with winners and losers. Even from that standpoint, it's a little bit goofy because you probably won't know until the season is over who actually won or who actually lost. But there's no more deals to be had. It's over. At 5 o'clock on Saturday, there's still deals to be had.
Like 5:02, we were driving home. I was in my car driving home, and it was like, oh, there's John Klingberg. Like, oh, you guys couldn't do that 30 minutes ago when we were on television?
I know. And I would think the defense is probably what he's going to attack next. I think it has to be attacked. I think we all understand that Matt Murray is not a part of the future here. They're going to do what they can to unload him. I wouldn't be shocked if Jake Muzzin's contract got traded somewhere at some point to offer up some relief before he hits long-term IR. I wouldn't be surprised on that front at all. And I'm sure he's kicking tires, Brad Treliving, on other pieces. But in terms of what we already know, it's Ryan Reeves, John Klingberg, Tyler Bertuzzi, Max Domi. And there was always going to be change. Every team in the league, the best team in the league has changed. We've seen it from Vegas. The worst team in the league has changed. We've seen it from Columbus, Chicago.
Reality of the cap, man. Every year, no matter how good or how bad you are, if you're bad, there's going to be change because you were bad. If you were good, there's going to be change because your cap situation is screwed, and now some guys are getting more money than you can allocate with your cap structure.
Right.
Nature of the beast.
Nature of the beast. Happens every single year. There's turnover. Now, from a Leaf perspective, it's still on the peripheral. We'll get to the players, and I have a bit of a different viewpoint than I'm sensing people are going with, how they're reacting to these moves so far.
I can't wait to hear that.
But as of now, it's still Matthews, Marner, Tavares, Nylander, Riley, Brody, Samsonov, your starting goalie, Keefe, the head coach.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So from that standpoint, nothing has changed in terms of the core of the team and the true like pillars and representatives of what people would say define the Maple Leafs.
Sure.
Right? So I think from that standpoint, again, I don't know how many people within the fan base are like really freaking out about these moves, because I think they still look at those guys and say, all right, it's still the same team.
I saw a lot of people freaking out, man. It's come to a point now where it almost doesn't matter which team signs what players. There is a corner of hockey people on Twitter, wherever, who hate every single signing that is made. They just think that player stinks and you shouldn't have signed him and it's too much money and it's too much term. It's just not true. Like there's players that can help teams. And like when it comes to the Leafs, there's going to be a new metric used this year. Expected goals per 60, all that kind of stuff. Expected snot per 60 is going to be used very frequently next season.
Yes. Why don't we play that clip so people understand the reference? This was Brad Treliving yesterday speaking about some of the recent additions to the Maple Leafs.
Bringing Max in, I really believe I go back a long ways with Max. I was in Arizona when we drafted him. Shane played a big role in this. Shane was Max's first captain. I really believe that we're going to see the best version of Max. He has been dying to play in Toronto for a long time. And I think having players wherever you are, having players that it means a great deal to them to pull on that jersey, I think is important. And that's Max. And again, he's got the ability. He brings offensive ability. Both these players, I think there's a DNA part of them that we need a little bit more snot to our game, and I think they both bring a little bit of that.
There it is.
Okay, there it is. Yes, so there's the reference, and I was waiting for it. I'm like, all right, let's go here. Come on now. So that's what you're talking about, and you're right about a certain percentage of the fan base that is going to react to everything. And I think there's a certain amount of Leaf fans that are eternally optimistic and a certain amount that are eternally pessimistic. It's always been the case, and it likely always will be. Even if they were to win the Stanley Cup, there'd somehow be a negative tone afterwards that they're going to lose somebody now, or what about this or that or the other. But I don't know how much of the fan base that represents. Is that 20%, 30%?
It's almost like it's the loudest portion.
Of course
of the
it is,
fan
because
base.
they're the diehards, and they're on top of it. And listen, we would be included in that because of what we do for a living,
Sure.
and how closely we follow everything. I have an opinion on everything. You have an opinion on everything. What I'm saying is, I think the other 60 to 70% of the fan base will definitely be excited by the names coming in, like Domi in particular. Ryan Reeves, everyone knows, and everyone understands who he is and what he represents. Bertuzzi's a well-known name. It'll be intrigue, but it's still Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares, Riley, Keith.
I get what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying?
Still their team. The keys
Absolutely.
haven't been handed to anyone else. It's
No.
still same story. It's going to be up to those guys to lead the way. But when those guys don't leave the picture, now the question becomes, who's the supporting cast now? And is it better, or is it worse, or is it just different?
Well, I don't think it's fair to compare the team today to the team that maybe skated off the ice Game 5 against Florida. I don't think you can compare the two teams until the day after the trade deadline. That's the nature of the salary cap era as well, that you can't get everything done in the regular season. You need 10 to 12 teams to realize they're out of it, be willing to eat some money, and be willing to trade pieces away. So whatever they've done, over the last 72 hours, I'm talking about the Leafs, and whatever else they're going to do between now and opening night, there will be more come the trade deadline, right? This team is not going to be complete until the day after the trade deadline. That's when you can really look and say, okay, they filled out this, they brought in that piece. So I don't think it's about, it's apples to apples today versus the team that skated off the ice.
It's only been 3 days.
And it's only been 3 days.
3 days of free agency. There is a lot that needs to happen before. First of all, the team's not even cap compliant, right? So they're like $8 million plus over the salary cap. So we don't even know what that looks like for them. And there's a lot that needs to happen. There's 2 full months of moves before guys start getting to town and doing captain skates before training camp.
Yeah, it's still a ways away, and there will be more moves. But understandably, and I'm as guilty as anyone of this, over the last, I would say, 3 or 4 years, we have been hyper-focused on the playoffs. as I think we should be in this city. I think Leaf fans, understandably, are obsessed with playoff success. They should be. It's long overdue. But as a result, sometimes I think I lose sight of the fact that the playoffs could be anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months. The regular season is like a 6.5 month grind.
Dude, are you going where I think you're going right now?
So here's what I'm going to say about what they've added so far. I think Bertuzzi is a great add. I love Tyler Bertuzzi here. I'm fine with him on a 1-year deal. It's a free agent move. You didn't trade for him. You didn't give up a first-round pick. If he blows up, plays great, and leaves because you can't pay him, so be it. That means he blew up and played great on your team.
He helped you. No problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Max Domi, I really like the signing. I'm concerned he'll be too hyper. I think he's got to take a page out of the Clarkson Komisarek book and say, dude, play your game.
Yep.
Don't get silly because you're Max Domi. Don't show up and think you got to fight because Ty's in the building. Ease into it. Play your game. And be who you're capable of being, but don't be a hero because you're in Toronto.
I think Nazem Kadri is a perfect example of that, right? Like he got carried away at times in the playoffs, and it cost him. And I think that's a good kind of it's something for him to look at and think, okay, like I can ease into it. Exactly what you're saying. I don't need to go crazy here at the beginning, but I like Max Domi coming to this team.
I like him too, and especially when you look at the way he plays in the playoffs.
Yeah.
He is a playoff performer.
Last 2 years, he's been a playoff performer, and just going back to Bertuzzi, that was his first year playing in the playoffs in the NHL, and he was really good.
Outstanding.
He had 5 goals, 10
points in
7 games. He was really good.
Really good.
And not to mention, when he was in the American League, he was the playoff MVP when Grand Rapids won. So he has playoff pedigree in him.
And you kind of stole him from Boston because Boston they paid a price to get him. They wanted to keep him. So I really like Bertuzzi. I really like Max Domi in terms of what they bring from a playoff pedigree standpoint. Ryan Reeves, I don't think he helps in the playoffs. I don't. But I understand what he represents. We'll get to that in a moment. John Klingberg defensively is a mess. That's why I think they need to still add a lot more on the defensive side of things, because if you have Liljegren, Klingberg, even Riley, like you need more there. You need size. You need more defensively sound players on the back end.
Did you notice, like, on Saturday, the D-men that were signing the big deals with term and money were all the mutants, the big boys? Like Radko Gudas got $4 million a year. Luke Shen got 2.75. Carson Soucy got 3. Like all these guys got term and AAV, the big boys.
Yeah.
And then the puck-moving guys that are kind of light, but they fly around the ice. The Gostisbehere, Klingberg, that player got 1 year. And it was like, we're not committing to that because we know where the league is going right now. It's going with mutants. And they need that mutant presence on the back end.
Well, the Leafs need it. Yeah, the Leafs need to follow that lead. They need to replace, the likes of Shen. I think they need a couple of guys like that. I mean, not the exact same carbon copy, but they need to change their defense core. But what I'm getting to is it still is the entertainment business. And as much as it is hyper-focused, playoff, is it going to help them? Living like that all year round is exhausting. And I've done that for years here in this city, focusing on this move, how it's going to affect what they do in the first round. Can you win with this guy, win with that guy? Again, as I said, I think Bertuzzi helps you greatly in the playoffs. Domi helps you greatly in the playoffs. Klingberg possibly. Reeves is a different story. But the 4 players, all of them are different. But I think all of them are very entertaining, fun players. And I think from that standpoint, what we've noticed the last couple of years is the regular season has been a write-off. The regular season has been, quite frankly, incredibly boring outside of a few examples like Matthews chasing 60 and chasing it hard. Marner's point streak early in last season. Maybe post-deadline after you acclimate O'Reilly and Shen and Achari. There have been moments in pockets where you look at it and think, okay, that's interesting. But a lot of it just became routine. A lot of it became this slow march to the playoffs, and it was hyper-focused on the playoffs. And I think even though these guys, they're going to have their ups and downs, they're going to have play different roles and have different factors on what actually happens in the playoffs. In terms of the regular season, I really like the 4 of these guys and what they represent because I think they're going to be fun. Yep. I think it's going to be entertaining, and that's where Ryan Reeves comes into play. Well, Reeves is going to beat the piss out of somebody on a Saturday night in Toronto, and That place goes crazy for goals. That place goes crazy for wins. Nothing gets that crowd rocking like big hits and fights.
Listen,
nothing.
That guy is the sheriff, and everyone knows it. And there's still guys that will give him a fight from time to time. But as far as playing in the biggest market and doing that kind of stuff, there's no one better than Ryan Reaves to do it. And I would say that there were people maybe a little unpleased about the fact that he got 3 years. Like, Philly had to sign Nick Delorier to 4 years to get that player. Like, you have to attach term if you want that guy, because despite what you think of his playing ability, that is a highly coveted kind of guy. In the room, on the bench, whatever you want to call it, like, there's just something about having a guy like that around that means business, that players in the room like. Now, I will say this about the players that they got. There's no identity crisis on any of those players. You know exactly what they are, what their identity is, and what role they're going to play. Bertuzzi, like, he's chippy, he's smart, he's skilled, he's a play, but he knows what he is. Max Domi, same thing. It's like speed and tenacity. Klingberg is one-dimensional offensive defenseman. I think it would look pretty cool to see Klingberg playing on the first power play unit with Matthews and Marner. Like, how does that look? Is that different than how their power play usually looks with Morgan Riley when it's, sometimes it just gets a little stale. Now you throw Klingberg on there. And Ryan Reaves, like, it's the sheriff. It's the heavyweight champ in the league. Now he's on your team. He's in your building. He's getting you that energy. You know exactly what these guys bring to the table. It's not this, we signed this guy out of Chicago and, I don't know, we'll see what he is. We'll see what he can be. There's none of that. You know exactly what they are.
Yeah, and I think with the Reaves deal, there's an element of like an ambassadorship that's going to come with this. I don't think he's playing 3 years with the Leafs. I don't. I wouldn't be shocked if the third year he was with the Marlies. You're the captain down there. Help the kids out. I think he wants to possibly get into media, and there's no better market in the world to do that.
Man. Mr. TNT, it's good for his profile.
Absolutely. He's a calculated guy. He's a smart guy. I think he understands who he is, what he represents. And I think with Reaves, you're taking it 1 year at a time. You're going to get one big year out of him where, as I've stated over the weekend, he is your 12th forward. He's not a fourth liner. He's your 12th forward. There is a difference. He is not moving up the lineup if there are injuries. He's not killing penalties. Nope. He's not on the ice late in a game. If there's, if you take a face off and McDavid's coming over and he's on the ice, you're nervous. I mean, that's who he is, and that's what he's always been.
Yeah.
But he brings personality, he hits, he fights, and for me, simply from an entertainment standpoint, I think that's valuable. And I think what Treliving is telling you is in the room, they felt like they needed something. They needed a little bit of spice, because that's coming out of, with O'Reilly leaving, with Shen leaving. And Treliving touched on it yesterday with O'Reilly in particular. And I got that impression as well, speaking with someone, kind of close to his camp, is that it wasn't overly comfortable, him being a Maple Leaf. I don't think that's his DNA.
He's just
Brian
not a rah-rah kind of guy. Like, maybe he just goes about his business, and, there's just a certain level he gets to when it comes to that excitement in the room and dragging guys, and that's fine. Like, that's...
Well, and also, I'm just talking about being a person, being recognized everywhere you go living in Toronto. That's what I'm talking about. Right. I'm not I can't speak on the room. I have no idea what he thought of the room, what was going on in the room. I'm talking about O'Reilly kind of being a country guy who was, he was in St. Louis, he was in Colorado, now he's in Nashville. Wouldn't be shocked if he lived 40 minutes outside of the rink. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Right. I think, being in Toronto, being Ryan O'Reilly, being a Leaf, that can be overwhelming for people.
That's a lot,
it's and you can't know it until you do it. You can't, like, Max Domi's really jacked to be a Leaf, obviously, and we know why. Maybe he gets here and he's like, you know what? It's not what I thought it was going to be.
Sure, he's got a lot of name value.
Maybe it's even better. Who knows?
Yeah.
But you can't know until you do it. And some guys crave it. Some guys get here and they love it and they embrace it and they want it. Some guys think they want it. They get here, they test it out, and they're like, you know what? It's not everything I thought it was going to be, or I'm more comfortable in a different situation. That's the nature of the beast. You're talking about the brightest lights in the sport, the biggest hockey market in the world.
Different, man.
It's a different beast.
And we've talked about this so much, but you play in Dallas, you play in Carolina. It's like there's one beat report. There's like someone from The Athletic and someone from the local Gazette is there, and like maybe if it's a national game, there's a little more. But you get here, man, there's 20 microphones in your face every single day. And they need something to write about. So they're writing about you, right? Whether you like it or not.
Yep.
So it is different for sure.
And even just going to the store is different, right? Like going to the store, Ryan O'Reilly could be walking down Broadway in Nashville.
Dude.
There's not many people stopping him. You walk down Yonge Street, everyone knows who you are.
I'm not even joking. I played with a guy here in Toronto, and he told me, he goes, I don't go to any stores. I order everything on Amazon Prime. I said, like what? Like toothpaste, toilet paper? He goes, every single thing is ordered on Amazon Prime. I do not go to Shoppers Drug. I don't go anywhere.
Right.
I said, that is completely outrageous. How many boxes are coming to your house? He goes, a ridiculous amount, but I do not go anywhere.
Sounds like my house, and we are not celebrities. But that's the nature of 2023, though. You can do that. Like, that's the beauty of it. If you don't want to go anywhere, you don't have to.
Maybe you like going places, and you just want to, and you just want to have your guitar with you.
Absolutely. It's a different beast. OverDrive brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Confirm and deny coming up this hour. We got Adam Hadwin in just over an hour in a playoff with Colin Morikawa and Ricky Fowler that nobody saw live. People were freaking out about that because they had to tee off early because of the weather. Catch up with Hadwin in about an hour. MJ's on the show today. Jays are back in action tonight in the south side of Chicago, coming off a sweep. The hands of the Boston Red Sox, 7-20 against the AL East this year.
Not the best.
Not the best. Some updates on Manoah, some updates on Hyunjin Ryu as well. Positive updates from the Florida Complex League. That is a change of pace. So we'll get into that. We'll tell you about what's going on with the Jays, and obviously a lot of news in the NBA with the Raptors as well. Our buddy Jack Armstrong still to come. Frankie Corrado's in here. I'm Brian Hayes. OverDrive continues, TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.
I can neither confirm or deny that this is in fact a segment.
Austin trades Andrew Raycroft to Toronto in exchange for the rights to Tuukka Rask.
It's been my honor and a privilege to serve as the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs Hockey Club.
It's time for Confirm or Deny.
Do you regret giving all those gentlemen the no trades or no movement clauses?
Oh, I can neither confirm or deny that.
I can't confirm or deny.
All right, Confirm or Deny brought to you by Don Valley North Lexus. Right now, lease the 2023 IS 300 all-wheel drive F Sports Series 1 from just $298 biweekly for 24 months. Visit DonValleyNorthLexus.com for all the details. We're moving Confirm or Deny around because we got a big show coming up. 5:30, Adam Hadwin will join us, and our boy Jack Armstrong on Fred VanVleet. Absolutely cashing in down in Houston.
Dude, that is a massive Brinks truck he needs for that loot.
Whew. What a haul for Fred.
Good for him, man. Like, he's always
what a
been that
haul.
guy. He's like, I'm going to bet on myself and I'm going to cash in. And there he is doing it again. Like, he's not short on confidence that way.
No. And hey, listen, Houston, they had cap space. They were looking for veteran leadership. They wanted someone, that could play the point. They paid him, right? They paid him. Now, I think they paid him about $10 million plus a year more than he probably should be.
Not the Raptors' problem, though.
It is not.
Yeah, it is. Sorry, it is the Raptors' problem because they got to replace him. Also, they let it get to this point.
Yes. Asset management, not ideal.
No.
Not ideal. I mean, in retrospect, you're looking back now on the trade deadline thinking, what were you doing, Masai?
But everyone else saw it.
Everyone else
saw it except for them internally. It really makes you question, what the decisions that are being made there.
Well, and they acquire Pirtle. Now they end up locking him up, but they give him a 4-year deal. And now, you quickly go out and get Schroeder, and he steps in as a replacement, but he's not known as a shooter at all. Siakam's name is out there. There's a lot to get into with the Raptors. We'll get into it here a little bit with Confirm or Deny, and Jack's coming up a little bit later. Let's begin, actually, with a Confirm or Deny on the Raps. Confirm or Deny, the Raptors should be all in on Damian Lillard with no untouchables on the table.
Dude, what's the point? So you're going to give up Siakam, and you're going to, you don't have a lot to give up. I'm going to say deny because you're going to bring in Damian Lillard. Great. You know how much is going to need to go out the door? Your team is not going to be any better if you just bring in Lillard and Siakam plus is all leaving. Mm-hmm. So I don't understand the logic of going all in on Damian Lillard. Great player.
Yes.
Game breaker.
Game-changing player.
Yeah, but there's not going to be enough around him anyways.
I'm going to confirm this because he's got 2 years left on his deal. And this is what the Raptors, this is how they get in the game, right? You're never going to sign the equivalent of Dame. It's not going to happen. Drafting, you're hoping that Scotty Barnes develops into a superstar, but Scotty, the way we felt about Scotty after his rookie season is not exactly how we feel about him after his second season. The talent is still there, the ability is still there, but for me, you can put a package together, and it's going to cost a lot. It might cost Scotty Barnes. It might cost Scotty, pick swaps. You got to throw money in there to make it all match. But if you bring in a guy like Dame, you got Pirtle. If you can keep Siakam in some capacity, like all of a sudden you got a team here that I think could do some damage in the East.
Yeah?
I do. And because he's got 2 years left on his deal, I don't buy into this idea that he's going to be so disgruntled. He obviously wants to go to Miami. He's made up his – I don't know who sold him on only Miami. Someone got to him. Was it Jimmy Butler? Is it Pat Riley? Because remember the report came out a month ago that Miami is focused on prying Damian Lillard out of Portland. And I remember reading that report, like, how do you leak that you're planning on getting someone that's not available and is under control somewhere else, unless there is blatant collusion taking place?
I don't know if it's collusion, but you know the way things work. There's and I'm not saying I know anything, obviously, but it's there's an agent who represents this guy and that guy, and he's we could probably swing something if you really wanted to. We just got to start chipping away at it. I just look at the East as, Boston's a good team, clearly, but I don't love that they moved on from Marcus Smart. Milwaukee's aging. What is Philly? Is Embiid going to stay healthy enough? What's going to happen with Harden now? Cleveland could get better.
Cleveland's going to get better.
A better team.
Miami obviously went to the NBA final, but they barely even made it into the playoffs.
Knicks
are the Knicks.
They're just,
the Knicks are the Knicks.
They're so hot and cold.
Yeah, I'm saying, man, I'm all in on this idea. You bring in Dame, if you obviously once you get him, you're gonna have to commit. You're gonna have to let him know you're here. You're not going anywhere. Gear up. Let's go for it here. And if you can keep enough pieces around him, I think this team could really improve significantly and have a chance for 2 years to go all in.
I'll tell you what.
And that's what I'm saying. 2 years in the NBA is an eternity.
For sure, with the amount of movement there is, but they got to get in the game, man. They got to start thinking we need bench players, we need some shooters.
Sure.
It's not like Dame is coming in and all these pieces are going out and it's okay, here we go.
Yeah.
There is a lot of work this team needs to do.
Absolutely. Confirm or deny. One of Max Domi or Tyler Bertuzzi will be in Toronto long term.
Oh, I'm going to confirm that. I'm going to confirm that big time, and I have a feeling it's Max Domi. I just think, for a guy, he's bounced around quite a bit. He's a really good player. He just is coming off his career best year, and he doesn't cash in on a long-term deal. Sounds like he said he likes Toronto and would want to be here a long time, even though he's never played a game here yet. But that's the guy for me where, if you look at it, he kind of got a deal here that's under his value based on the year he had. Mm-hmm. So if he really wants to be here and you like the fit and he gets off to a good start, maybe you think about it. All right, let's, what's 3 years look like for you here in Toronto? I can see that for sure.
Yeah, I think I'd love to see a situation where Tyler Bertuzzi would be here long term. But I think it's an understanding. It's a one-off to cash in, put up numbers, boost his profile that much more. And when the cap goes up next year, he likely signs long-term and more than likely somewhere else. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion he won't be here long-term. Domi, again, as I said off the top, I'm really intrigued by the idea of him being here because I think Domi's a big market player. When he's in Columbus or Arizona, I don't think that's his thing. Remember his first year in Montreal, he was outstanding.
Yeah. World Juniors, he was great. He loves the big stage.
I think he loves the big stage. My fear for him is that he gets here and it's so crazy because this is not just your standard player coming in. This is Ty Domi's kid.
I know.
And everything's going to be the amount of pieces written and produced about Max and Ty are going to be crazy.
And Ty's going to be at the game with
right
Brady and Wahlberg and Ric Flair's going to be going, woo!
All day. It's going to be big.
It's going to be awesome.
Again, as I said, it'll be thoroughly entertaining. And I think Max is up for it because of the way he's wired and the way he's played in big moments throughout his career. But I have to see it first. I got to make sure it's not overwhelming. But I'm still going to confirm it. But if this was a Jerry's, I'd put it at 60%. I don't think it's 100%.
Okay. Yeah,
I don't, because I think if they both play really well, too, you're talking about a situation where they might get priced out of Toronto. And It's a lot.
I think that Bertuzzi
it's a lot.
one,
The moment,
for sure.
the market, it's a lot.
The Bertuzzi one's interesting because he probably had some term out there with maybe a little less money with some teams that he thought, like, where's this team going?
They got
like, where's this team going? And he probably looks at Toronto and says, 1 year, good AAV, and I'm going to play with Matthews and Marner.
Yeah.
As long as he stays healthy, like that'll be one of the biggest challenges for him that maybe we've glossed over a little bit is he needs to stay healthy.
Yeah.
Whatever he's got going on with the back or the concussions, like he's got to stay healthy.
Yep.
But if he does, he's playing with those two guys and he's smart enough to get it going offensively with them. I am like very, very excited to see where that goes, but he probably looks at it and says, 1 year with those guys, and then it's Brink's truck.
Yeah,
it's
I think
Fred
that's
Van
the plan.
Vliet, Brink's truck.
I think that's naturally the plan. And he's a rich man's Michael Bunting. He's an upgrade on Bunting. He's a better player than Bunting, and he's a guy that's willing to agitate and back it up.
Is he the best line mate they've had?
Well,
if he plays with them.
With the way Sheldon Keefe operates, the idea that there's going to be one line that sticks together is fool's gold. That's not going to happen. So I'm not convinced he even plays with that. He will at some point over the course of the season.
How does he not at some point? How do you not look at your opening night roster and be like, I can go Bertuzzi, Matthews, Marner? How do you not do that?
I would think that probably happens if I were putting money down, but I would guess after 5 games it flips. And then he's playing with Tavares, and he's playing with possibly Domi at some point. Who knows who he's going to play with? Keefe's going to have to figure that out. And Keefe, based on his history, will likely move pieces around. But I will confirm it. But again, as I said, I'm just into the confirm. I'm not convinced Domi and Bertuzzi are here long term. Confirm and deny. Max Domi, if he were up for it and if it were available, should wear number 28 for the Leafs.
I'm deny on this one. He's his own player. He's different than his dad. He's not his dad. He should be his own guy, his own entity. He doesn't need to wear his dad's number just because he was here in Toronto and he's a legend. Like, just be your own guy. He's going to wear number 11. I think it's great. He's Max Domi. He's not Ty Domi. It's just...
I totally agree with that. It's a denial all day long. And Sam Lafferty is currently number 28. But you can't come in here and... He's not Ty. He's not going to try to be Ty. He can't be Ty. Ty Domi was... That's what Ryan Reeves is going to try to represent. But Max is a different player. Max is not a guy who's hitting and fighting all the time. He's not.
He's scrappy. He's scrappy and he's tenacious, but I think he only
will
has
react.
Like 4
he's a
or 5
loose cannon
fights.
at times, but he will. Like if someone gets hit from behind or he doesn't like something, he'll react to it.
That's what I like. Like I saw some people saying he's only got 4 or 5 fights in his NHL career. That's fine. But when someone gets hit, he's going to go over and he's going to cross check and he's going to get in your face. And it's just like there's a principle involved that I like. That
I
he
agree.
has.
He's not allergic to a scrum or a reaction, and I think that is necessary that they have a different DNA in the top 9. Some guys who are willing to be unpredictable.
He's not a bluffer.
No, but he's not going looking for fights or looking for hits. That's not who he is. And if he wore number 28, that doesn't mean he'd morph into it. But I think it would only lead people to be like, all right, what is this guy? Is he closer to Ty than you believe? Because not every fan knows exactly what this guy's been doing throughout his career.
Right.
Like a lot of Leaf fans, they watch the Leafs and that's it. They didn't track him in Chicago. They weren't tracking him when he was in Dallas.
I love that. I got buddies like that who only watch the Leafs, and then the Leafs will play a team, just, I don't know, Philly, right? And they're like, wow, I never noticed this guy. He's a pretty good player. Like, yeah, because you only watch
the Leafs. Exactly. And if you're waiting for Max to play like Ty, then you've got something coming.
Yeah.
Hyunjin Ryu made his debut in the Florida Complex League and pitched the lights out. Now, Alek Manoah went up to Double-A and pitched a lot better. 10 strikeouts. As the game went on, he started looking more and more like himself. Confirm or deny, one of Ryu or Manoah will be back in the Jays rotation by September 1st.
I'm just because Hyunjin Ryu is back and it's July, you think that's 1, 2, like
he's got a lot of time to gear back up.
I'm going to confirm it. I'm going to confirm it for Ryu, not Manoah. I'm going to stick to my statement that Manoah will not be back with the Jays this season. But 2 months for Ryu and, coming back off that surgery is very difficult, but it's at least he's off to a good start.
Yes, off to a good start. Velocity, down a little bit, but this isn't a guy who's throwing smoke anyway, right? He's got to get his velocity up to 90, 91 when he really wants to gear up. Maybe he hits 92 on the gun, but I think it's a good. You're talking about him being down there for a long time. You can give him 4, 5, 6 more starts. Maybe another one in the Florida Complex League, maybe a couple in AA, a couple in AAA. Then you can bring him up. Manoah, I'm not going to overreact to the AA, but I think he deserves to have some positive spotlight put on it because it was so negative, the Florida Complex League start. Like the FCL start was such an abysmal stat line that it was being goofed on around the world. Here, it's still AA. These are AA hitters. He should be carving them up, but he did carve them up. So good for him, right? That's a positive kind of bounce back for Manoah. I still think he's 2-3 starts away in terms of being in the positive before they even think, okay, what are we going to do with him next?
And why rush the timeline?
And why rush it?
If it's one of those things where the guy completely needs a full reset,
right.
Give him the full reset.
Give
just
him the
because
full reset.
you don't want to expedite things just because he started pitching well, and then he gets back up here and he's right back to where he started. Like
No,
let him cook.
You got to let him. You got to let him really breathe down there. Let him marinate down there. But we're talking September 1. That's almost 2 months away. I'll confirm that one of these guys puts themselves in a position by the end of August. One of them, where they say, you know what, we're paying these guys, Ryu in particular. We like these guys, both of them in particular, because of what they've done. And that the Jays, if they're dealing with injuries in the rotation, which is likely going to happen at some point, they decide, all right, we're going to go with one of these guys.
Yeah.
Right? Because the Jays have been very, very lucky with how healthy they've been. Even Manoah, it's not an injury, but it's just poor pitching.
And that's part of the frustration, I think, with the Jays and where they are, like two games out of a wild card spot. Like, you haven't had to battle injuries. It's just been kind of self-inflicted stuff that's put you in this spot now.
Absolutely. Confirm or deny, brought to you by Don Valley North Lexus. Right now, lease the 2023 IS 300 all-wheel drive F Sports Series 1 from just $298 bi-weekly for 24 months. Visit DonValleyNorthLexus.com for all the details. Kevin Gausman, who's been outstanding this year, he made a comment over the weekend that I found dumbfounding. I found flabbergasting. I could not believe he said what he said, and I can't believe he actually believes what he said. We'll play it. We'll get into it next. All right, so the Jays are back in action tonight in Chicago, coming off a sweep at the hands of the Red Sox, 7-20 in the AL East, 45-40 on the season, just like last year. They were 45-40. And at this point, I would define them as a good team. Not a very good team, not a great team, not a poor team, not even necessarily an underperforming team. Just a good team. I think they're short a bat, maybe 2. They're short an arm, maybe 2, both in the rotation and in the bullpen. Fundamental issues flare up at times. We saw that all weekend, especially on the bases. But a good team that has not met expectations because of the amount of hype that surrounded them. And I think if everything worked out the way it was supposed to, specifically with Manoah, possibly Vladdy being a little bit better than he has at times, certainly Alejandro Kirk, every team could do this, point to 2 or 3 guys and say, we want this or we want that. But I think if they got that, and if they get that, the final 70 games or so, 70-plus games, then they'll probably be in a position where I think they make the playoffs. And the playoff race in the AL is not really that deep.
They're 2 games back.
They're
games
right
back
there
in the wild card.
And Houston's getting going, and I think everyone was waiting for Houston to get going. Like they're going to go. They're probably going to get in. Them or Texas, are going to be in the West or as a wild card team. I believe that. Baltimore, I don't know what they're going to be. They're still young.
They're good. They're up and coming.
They're very good.
They're a very good team. The unfortunate part for the Jays is they've played so poorly within their own division, and they're not going to get a chance to play the Yanks until September.
Well, that's the issue is down the stretch, they play, I think they finished their season Baltimore, New York, Tampa, New York, Tampa.
But it's all backloaded. It's all at the end.
Of course it is, but it doesn't matter when it is. They're 7-20 against the AL East.
Oh, I know.
So, but you're right in terms of trying to track them down. But the Yankees are not a great team. And Judge, I don't know if he's going to return. They're like the Yankees, they find a way to patch it together. They've been doing it my whole life, and I expect that they'll continue to do that. But it's not as if the Jays season is a write-off by any means because they can still get into the playoffs. They absolutely still can. But they're a good team. That's what they are. They're a good team. Kevin Gausman, when trying to explain what's going on against the AL East and elite teams in baseball, had this to say over the weekend.
I think we have a target on our back. I think it sounds bad to say, but, I think people know how talented our team is. And so, they know they have to really bring it. And so if we don't bring it, they're gonna kind of have a higher intensity than us. And so we kind of got to know that going in and try to match that or take over that intensity.
That is an asinine statement.
Give it to me, man.
That is just a crazy.
There's so many things going on in that brain of yours now with
listen,
that.
I love Gausman. Gausman's been outstanding. Gausman has done everything he could possibly do since he signed here. That is such a reach and so ridiculous for a team that has not won a World Series in 30 years. A team that has barely made the playoffs in over 25 years.
A team that puked away an 8-1 lead last year in the wild card series.
That shares a division with the Yankees, the Sox, true target type teams.
And the Rays are good every year.
It's crazy to suggest that teams are coming in here saying, we better really bring our A game because of the Blue Jays.
Right.
Yes, they have talent. Yes, the expectation was that they'd be a 90-plus win team and possibly compete for a World Series. Maybe that still materializes. You're 45-40, and you're the Jays.
Well,
come on, Kevin. Come on, man.
It's just
you can't be serious with that type of commentary.
There's been some good quotes this year, like Chris Bassett saying he got ambushed is right up there.
That was a good one.
Those two are neck and neck. But I have to agree. They're not the Sox. They're not the Yankees. They're a good team. There's a lot of hype around them because it's something different, something other than the
There's
Yanks.
hype in Toronto. Yeah. I don't believe in other parts of baseball they're sitting there saying, man, the Jays, that's for Houston. That's for the Dodgers.
Yep.
The Yankees get it because they're the Yankees. The Sox get it because they're the Sox. When Ohtani's playing, there's focus and there's a target. There's no target on the Jays. There's no target. Hour 2 coming up. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.